confidence comes from how you prepared yourself. Even you're afraid, being afraid and being confident is two different things. And before every fight, just right before I walk in, when I'm scared, I go in the bathroom. I look at myself in the mirror and I start to compliment myself. Like, even if I don't believe it, I'm trying to believe it.
For 11 years, Georges St-Pierre was the most dominant welterweight fighter alive. 26 wins, 9 title defenses, a decade at the top of a sport where careers end in seconds and the best in the world are trying to hurt you. He was one of the greatest to ever do it, and he was afraid every single time he walked in. The walk to the octagon, the moment the crowd becomes deafening and the body understands what is about to happen. He described it as the worst part, not the fight, the walk. The 30 seconds when the fear had nowhere to go but through him. Most people, watching him walk to that cage, assumed the fear was something he had learned to silence. He hadn't. He did something harder than that. He understood what fear is for. Not a warning to stop, but a proof that the thing is real. The first time Georges St-Pierre fought for the welterweight title, he couldn't meet the champion's eyes. Matt Hughes was his idol, the most decorated champion in the division's history, the kind of fighter you don't believe you can beat until you've beaten him. Hughes submitted him with 1 second left in the first round. 2 years later, St-Pierre walked back into the same room, still afraid. He knocked him out in round 2. Before that rematch, he said it outright. Not that he was nervous, that he was terrified. Terrified of being humiliated. Terrified of failing publicly in front of every person who had watched him build what he'd built. He said this to a camera, without apology, without qualification. He said it before fights, after fights, across a decade of winning, in press conferences, in locker room footage, in long interviews recorded years after the wins were already in the record. He wasn't managing expectations. He wasn't constructing a narrative. "I'm afraid to get knocked out," he said. "Afraid to get humiliated. Afraid to have done all that work, all that effort, for nothing." He was not cocky with the public. He was cocky in private. Before every fight, he stood in front of a mirror and built the version of himself that could walk through the fear. Not by renaming it, not by pretending it wasn't there, by building something alongside it, on top of it, both present at the same time. He told his coaches. He told the cameras. He told anyone who asked. "There is nothing more frightening," he said, "than a man who tells you, 'No, I'm afraid, but I don't care how I feel, because no matter what happens, I'm going to make that walk.'" He had accepted the fear so completely that naming it required no more deliberateness than naming the weather. He was afraid. He went anyway. This is not a story about a man who conquered fear. The fear was there every time. So was he. The men he competed against were trying specifically to hurt him. That was not what he was afraid of. He was afraid of himself. Not the opponent, not the physical danger. The version of himself that might show up on fight night and not be equal to what the moment required. That fear drove everything that followed. He didn't train to be good everywhere. He trained to have no gaps. Wrestling in Montreal, boxing in New York, jiu-jitsu in São Paulo. The fear drove the preparation. The preparation closed every angle his opponents could use against him. The fear was inside all of it. Inside the 5 a.m. sessions before Montreal had fully woken up. The ones where the body hadn't yet agreed to be there, where the fear arrived before the alarm did. Where every round had to be chosen before it could begin. Inside the Tuesday sparring where training partners who were getting paid to be there were still trying to hurt him. Because that was the only way to prepare for men who would be trying for real. Inside the weight cuts that left him depleted 24 hours before he needed to be at his absolute best. Inside the film study at midnight looking for the angle the next man would use against him. Thousands of rounds, each one completed against the specific weight of not knowing whether the preparation would hold, whether the body would perform when it had to, whether the version of him that walked out would be equal to what the moment required. All of them in service of something he wasn't certain he could do until he had done it again. He did not remove the fear from the process. He built the process around it. The record reflects this. 9 defenses, a decade of dominance. What the record doesn't show is the version of him that existed at 2 a.m. the night before each one. The fear present. The direction unchanged. You have been doing something different. Fear is not a warning that you should stop. It is a signal that the thing in front of you is real enough to matter. A fight with nothing at stake produces no fear. Neither does a life built carefully enough that nothing is ever truly at stake. You have been treating fear as the reason not to begin. He treated it as the reason to. That is what fear is for. You are waiting for the right conditions. If pressed, you cannot describe what they would look like. You cannot name the feeling that would tell you they had arrived. It happens late at night sometimes. Everything comes briefly into focus. The gap between what you intended and what is actually accumulating. The distance is exact, specific, impossible to argue with. And then something else arrives. A sound, a notification, the particular mercy of tiredness. And by morning it has blurred back into something manageable. The clarity gone, the fear still there. The day beginning anyway without the decision having been made. You have been waiting for morning for the discomfort to pass, for the gap to blur back into something livable for a long time. St-Pierre felt the same clarities before every fight, the same exact gap, the same specific fear. He called it evidence the fight was worth entering. You have been calling it a reason the fight is not yet yours to enter. Fear is not the locked door. It is the sound of something that matters on the other side of it. GSP once said he retired not because he couldn't fight anymore, but because the stress was unbearable. Not uncomfortable. Unbearable. What made it unbearable was not the danger of the sport. It was the OCD, the same compulsive attention that built his dominance. Also made the fear impossible to put down between fights. The preparation never felt complete. The next threat was always visible. The standard he held himself to had no ceiling. It is sustained and unglamorous. The weight of not knowing whether the preparation will hold, whether the body will perform when it must perform, whether the version of you that walks out under the lights will be equal to what the moment required. He carried that weight from fight to fight for 11 years. It did not lighten with experience. The wins did not make the next fight easier to face. The wins made it worse. Each one raised the floor. More to protect, more that could be taken, more people watching what a loss would mean. The fear compounded. The record grew, both at the same time. Not waiting for certainty, not waiting for the fear to pass, because he had decided that neither of those things was required. 11 years, 9 defenses, every fight, the same decision made in the same direction against the same feeling. Until 26 wins and a decade of dominance answered the question. The record grew. The cost grew with it, until the cost was more than the wins were worth. The fear demanded the same thing each time. That he go anyway. The fear you are carrying is asking the same thing. You have been giving it a different answer. There is a tab open on your browser that has been open for longer than you would admit if asked directly. A draft, a plan, a course you paid for. You don't close it. Closing it would mean the version that was going to start has officially not started. So it stays open. Evidence of an intention that hasn't become an action. When someone asks how the project is going, you say slowly in a tone that implies deliberate pacing. What it implies is that it hasn't moved. You know the difference. You don't say it. You have been collecting evidence. Screenshots, articles, notes in a document that has been open for months. You know more about beginning than most people who have begun. You have not begun. You are waiting for a feeling that will not arrive. Not this week. Not when the conditions improve. Not when you are more ready. St-Pierre was never not afraid. He just stopped treating it as a reason. That single decision is the entire distance between his life and yours. The fear Georges St-Pierre brought into every fight is not different in kind from what you are carrying. Not the fear of a bad outcome in the abstract. The specific fear of walking towards something you want badly enough that failing at it would mean something real. The fear before you walk into the room where someone will see what you can actually do. The fear that keeps you in the preparation stage for one more week. One more week, because the preparation stage is the last place where failure is still impossible. The fear the morning before you show someone what you've been working on in private. That fear. It is proportional to what you want. It is appropriate to what is at stake. Fear that matches the size of the thing is what fear looks like when the thing is real. The difference between his life and yours is not the presence of fear. He used fear as evidence the fight was real. You are using it as evidence the fight cannot be won. He is not built differently. He decided differently. It is a decision. One that gets made the same way each time until repetition makes it feel like character. When did the fear stop being a signal and start being a sentence? Georges St-Pierre went to a sports psychologist during his career. The psychologist told him to stop saying he was afraid, to call it excitement instead. St-Pierre said, "I am not excited. I know the difference." He refused the reframe. But before every fight, he stood in front of a mirror and built something alongside the fear. Not instead of it. On top of it. The fear present. The confidence built deliberately, both at the same time. That was not a reframe. That was a decision about what to do with what was already there. The conditions will not improve on their own. Waiting has never been how the fear gets smaller. It doesn't get smaller, it gets familiar. And familiar is different from gone. You already know what the fear is measuring. You have always known. The gap is not information. It is not readiness. There is nothing arriving that will make this feel different before it begins. He understood something that the psychologist didn't. Naming the fear correctly was part of respecting what he was about to do. He was afraid. He said so. He went anyway. Going while afraid is the thing. Not going once the fear has passed. It hasn't passed. It won't. He never solved the fear. He just refused to let it be the reason. Understanding what fear is for and going anyway are not the same act. One of them is reading about the walk. The other is the walk.